Well, let's get started with this. First, let's talk about, there's a photograph that we posted on Facebook, and it was this photograph right here. We'll throw this photograph up. As we see, it's a photograph of Lex Luger, Scott Steiner, Rick Steiner, and Sting. Rodney, if you look at this picture, what is your thoughts on this photograph as we're looking at it right now?
Lex is wondering, what am I doing here? Is there any other place I could be? Scott, of course, Scott Steiner, it's like, where are we at? Is there anybody going to fill up our drinks? Sting was like, okay, I'm listening to Scott talk, or Rick talk here, and Rick is saying something stupid.
Well, Jack, do you have the same thought processing on this photograph?
I think the rest of the guys is right. I think Lex is still mad at the prank that Brad Armstrong and I pulled on him at Huntsville. So he was not a happy man.
So let me get off of here and let's look at some people. What some people said during this. Rob Ferguson, Buckeye Nation. Does anybody understand what that means?
He's from Ohio.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know what that meant. Arles Castillo, a top fan of ours on Facebook, said, "Back when wrestling was great." Jack, do you agree? Was wrestling great then?
You know, it was really good. It really was. We may have our little bones to pick with certain individuals from time to time, but the product was still good at that time.
Yeah.
Rodney?
It was still wrestling, and it hadn't been all sports entertainment yet, but it was heading in that direction.
Let's talk a little bit about
the four guys sitting there will embrace it with open arms. Let's just say that.
Gusto is the word we're searching.
Let's talk about this picture for a minute. Let's talk about Lex Luger. This picture is not uncommon. The look that Lex Luger's got was not uncommon for the time.
No, he was always upset.
The correct thing, Rodney?
Yeah, I mean, he's always upset about something or unhappy. And the thing about it is, he was not going to get any better. I mean, he's on the top, but he was always not happy about something. And apparently, he and Bob Roop always into it. I believe that was about this time. Bob Roop was one of the agents at the time and always had a problem. Bob Roop always had a problem with him. He was, until one of the powers that be came in, and he was just as fine. He was fine as dandy. In fact, they could lay out the very same thing that Bob Roop laid out. He would do it with no argument.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure what his problem was. Maybe it could be the Steiners ate his meals again. I don't know.
Jack, we have talked about this before. It's very important while you're doing it. While you're doing what somebody ate one of his meals, I just caught that what he said. Because people would take his meals because he would actually have meals. Now I don't know. Does it look like he has a plate of food there?
Looks like he's drinking a soft drink.
Yes, I wouldn't think.
I think they're waiting for their food here. They haven't got in there yet. Rick is he's pushed too far away from the table to really get into anything. I think they're just waiting for their food to get there.
But the table already looks a little disheveled, but Lex Luger was never happy, and that was the way that every time I saw him, this was his look. I don't think he ever gave a smile. I'm not for sure he ever smiled when he was doing interviews on the thing. I think maybe during the Lex Express.
Yeah,
and that's why that didn't get over, because it was forced, both the smile and the express.
All right, let's see what else some people said about this on our Facebook page. Michael Marks missed the old wrestling days. Jack, Rodney, y'all missed the old wrestling days?
I sure do. We just reviewed some Continental Wrestling stuff, and yeah, it was good to see. I mean, I do miss it.
Kevin said, "Bring back the Steiner brothers. WWE Tag Team Champions will not stand a chance." I don't know if we want to see Rick and Scott Steiner back in 2021.
Well, yeah, I tell you, I said this a little bit ago. I saw them a couple of years ago, and they still look good for their age. But let me tag that for their age in there. They don't look like they used to look. They're still in better shape than I've ever thought about being in, but still, you know, guys get older. We reminisce. We love to see the stuff they used to do, but we kind of get disappointed with a lot of them that can't do the things they used to do or look the way they used to look.
Lex Luger. Was Lex Luger a good wrestler, Jack?
No, he was horrible, but but he had a great gimmick. He had a great look, and he was money. Big money, I don't know about that, but he did drop. So, you know, he got by. And I'm wondering if the Bob Roop thing, which, by the way, if of all the people I'd want to have heat with, Bob Roop is not the guy. But I guess he was in a position now where he thought, well, you know, they need me. They can get rid of Bob if he gets mad. So he may have been pushing that. I think Root was in Florida when the whole Bruiser Brody incident happened with Lex, and he may have held a grudge because he couldn't hold one towards Brody, so he had to hold one towards somebody.
It's possible, very possible.
I mean, let me ask you: is Lex Luger, Rodney, overrated? Is he an overrated wrestler?
Yeah, he was produced. He was pushed. He was put in the position, and then like Jack was saying, he had the look. He had the size, and that was his selling point. Even though he didn't have a seller, he never did sell. But I'm just saying that was his. They produced him. Dusty was able to get him over.
And that's the thing, is he was booked well. You know, they put him with guys that knew how to work with him and make him look good and draw out the better parts of what he was able to do. I don't envision Lex being a guy that could actually lead a match, but he didn't have to. You know, they put him in there with guys who knew how to take care of him, but more importantly, take care of business, which he was the one you need to take care of because he was drawing.
Steiners. Let's look at Rick and Scott Steiner. Two great professional wrestlers. There's no doubt. Both of them could wrestle. Maybe Rick Steiner a little better than Scott. What do y'all think?
Yes, he was. He was able to do the wrestling moves because he was legit. He was a legit wrestler for sure. Scott was bigger. He had a better build. But as far as the all-around wrestler, it was Rick for sure.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. And Scott, of course, you know, he come from a legit background too, but Rick was the better worker. Now, as far as transforming themselves later on in their career, nobody was better than Scott Steiner at doing that. You know, from Scott Steiner to Big Papa Pump was a huge deal, a big change. Physically, the way that he talked, the way that he worked in the ring, huge change. And even Arn Anderson, I saw a thing on him this weekend where he was talking about the phenomenal difference between where he was and where he got, and to how he earned that top spot by changing himself and everything about him to get there.
Let's talk a little bit about Sting. Sting started out as a Blade Runner. Well, he actually started out as one of the America's team or America's Power team or something like that with the Ultimate Warrior. I believe that Eddie Gilbert really showed Sting what he needed to know inside the wrestling ring while he was teaming with him in UWF. Don't you, Rodney?
Oh, absolutely. And it is absolutely important that when somebody's first coming up that they are put with people who know what they're doing, and that is including a tag team, whether you're working with them or a partner. And that is the key. When you have two people in the ring that don't know what they're doing, they can't learn from each other.
Yeah.
It's just not possible. I mean, even if we go back as far as Tommy Rich and Jerry Jarrett, they were teamed with very skilled professionals, whether it be Jackie Fargo, Tojo Yamamoto, which is the greatest trainer ever.
Yeah.
And then, of course, later on, Jerry Stubbs and Arn Anderson. Arn Anderson came out of his shell once he teamed with Jerry Stubbs, and that was the experience of Jerry Stubbs.
Jack, Sting, major star in professional wrestling. Will he go down as one of the major stars in professional wrestling?
I think he will. He was another one of those guys who adapted over time. The gimmick changed up. You know, he went from the bright, colorful blonde Sting to the crow look character. And he wasn't, I don't think he's the greatest wrestler that's ever set foot in the ring, but he had a great character. He knew how to build off that. He had people that understood his drawing power, that booked him well, and he worked for what he got. You know, he may not have been the most gifted athlete, but boy, he sure took that ball and ran with it hard. And I admire the guy.
All right. Well, we will talk about the Sting, Lex Luger, and the Steiners on other episodes. If you're watching us on YouTube, give us that big thumbs up. And if you've not subscribed to the page, subscribe to the page, Pro Wrestling Inside Out. It is free. It costs you nothing to subscribe to the channel. Plus, we do a lot of videos on there, so make sure you get over there and do so.